Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to SCPW's Wetland News, Wetland Views, a quarterly online show that will share knowledge, meaning information, skills, or expertise among people, communities, or organizations about wetlands. We will do this in two ways. First, by having guests sharing their knowledge, and that is for the wetland news. And second, by featuring a local wetland through Wetland View. Since its inception in 1998, the Society for the Conservation of Philippine Wetlands focused much of its efforts in making wetlands a buzzword that is understood and appreciated through its SIPA activities. SIPA means communication, education, participation, and awareness. This online show is one of the many ways we reach out to people about the importance of wetlands. For our maiden episode, we will be talking about a very interesting study that won the Newton Prize in 2019. Let me briefly introduce our guests for today. We have Dr. Devendra Saroj from the University of Surrey. We also have Dr. Mike Promentilla from De La Salle University in Manila and Ms. Apple Suplido from De La Salle Araneta University. So I guess you are all set. Let me just throw the first question to Dr. Devendra. Dr. Devendra, can you give us a brief background of the Newton Prize and the Next Cities project, including the role of the University of Surrey?
Okay, thank you, Amy. Very good morning and good afternoon to everybody around the world. Um, I will give a very brief background on the project Next Cities, which is our umbrella project, and the Newton Prize, which is part of that the project Next Cities, looking into how to apply the knowledge from project Next Cities. So basically, we started our joint collaboration of University of Surrey, University of Nottingham, with De La Salle University, led by Professor Michael Promentia and his colleagues in Philippines. And initially, our idea was to establish a vision, and we call this next cities, which means basically cities of the future. And we envision to bring together different researchers from different disciplines who would try to understand access of environmental quality, energy saving, and cycle. So nutrient cycle will, of course, be the main component of it, and that would basically link all other problems, and in long term would benefit the society in general in terms of better sanitation, better environmental quality, water quality, food security, and all of these can easily be reflected for the long-term benefit in developing countries and in fact future cities, addressing many of the sustainable development goals, for example SDG 6 on clean water and sanitation amongst other. So when we carried out our project Next Cities, it was between 2017 to 19. In those 2 years, we established the fundamental understanding of how nutrients embedded in wastewater can be recovered in a form that can be utilized for agriculture purposes, replacing, of course, the commercial fertilizer. So when we understood the basics and the background, particularly its relevance to Metro Manila and cities like that in many countries, indeed, then we basically came up with the ideas for demonstration, a real demonstration in a more integrated setting where we can not only recover the fertilizer, which is in the form of steroid, which is nitrogen phosphorus form, along with magnesium, which is a slow release fertilizer. So in this case, basically we needed financial support, and the opportunity of Newton Prize came up, and we applied for it, and we were the winner of the Newton Prize 2019 for between UK and Philippines research. Through this, basically what we are doing now is to demonstrate the recovery of fertilizer from wastewater in Philippines, and we would like to show how basically this can be applied to a setting where you have a massive amount of domestic wastewater in the form of septic sludge, and we can save money on managing that wastewater. We can reduce pollution that generates from those wastewaters, and produce fertilizer which can be used in agriculture. So that's where we are at this moment.
So I was just curious, Dr. Devendra, why did you choose Manila for this project? Aside from the fact, of course, that you were working with Mike already.
So there are many reasons, and one of the most important reasons is that Metro Manila is the most densely populated city of the world, and therefore it has its unique challenges, sanitation being one of them. So unless we provide novel approaches to incentivize sanitation, it might become very difficult to foresee 100% coverage or large coverage of sanitation in cities like Metro Manila. Incentivizing sanitation is not an easy task because normally we see wastewater as a burden. But what we wanted to show is if we can demonstrate wastewater as a resource in places like Metro Manila, which have problems related with sanitation coverage, wastewater treatment, and where a majority of wastewater still goes untreated and thrown into a natural environment. It gives a very interesting case study, not only for the Philippines, but also many developing countries.
So thank you very much for providing the context to this to the discussion today. Dr. Mike, can you explain what makes the project so innovative in terms of technology?
Thank you, Ami, for that question. So first, let me clarify the word innovative or innovation because it's a strong word to use.
Okay.
I don't want to claim that we are actually now having this innovative project, but I would like to say that for me, real innovation is the potential of producing something new from the lab and hoping that there is a market value now or maybe in the near future for these products or services. So, as mentioned by Devendra, this is how we envision this project wherein we try to solve an environmental problem. And this is sanitation here in Metro Manila and trying to recover a valuable resources, which is actually nutrients that we can found in human excreta. So that's basically the idea of the next cities project for this case uh,
So I'm sure this will have some sort of social impact, and can you expand on that?
yeah. So right now, what we are doing at Salikneta is we are trying to process this septage to produce what you call a next generation fertilizer that can be used for sustainable farming. So, if we can develop new business models out of this innovative process, I would say it's become an innovative process because it's basically a different way of looking at the problem and the solution for this problem. So, this could help, hopefully, no, our farmers. If you look this long-term impact no, to how to say reduce the burden of using commercial fertilizer because we are trying to find a green fertilizer that they can use. Of course, we cannot completely eliminate this fertilizer. At the
Yeah.
same time, we are trying to protect the environment because I know SCPW is wetland is a very valuable ecosystem to protect the environment. So we are trying to develop that kind of system as well, wherein we can recover the nutrients rather than discharging it to the environment, and that nutrient can be used now in the form of fertilizer.
Yeah, I think that's a very novel thought, Dr. Mike. But what do you think are the factors that will help the project succeed? Of course, we really would want this project to succeed.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that question.
And
Actually,
yeah,
the factors, there are several factors that we need for this project to be successful, but I think the most important one at this time is, of course, support from different partners like SCPW along the value chain. And in this case, as a researcher right now, of course, we are doing our research in the laboratory, and hopefully we can how this is mainstream the science on how we can recover nutrients rather than wasting this valuable resource and discharging it to the environment. So this for me is the important factor because this will translate our research to something impactful in the future.
yeah, and I think that the DLSU has a very important role in all of this. Now, from DLSU Manila, let's move to Salicneta Farm at the De La Salle Araneta University, where most of the action is at this point. So, Miss Apple, do you think this will help our local farmers?
Definitely, ma'am. So because outputs of the products will be very useful. Hopefully, as we test it, will be very applicable to the farms as an alternative source of fertilizer.
So, how are we progressing right? Will this, do you think this will be acceptable to farmers, using domestic sewage as fertilizer?
Hopefully, yes. I think it's very important that later information about the process, how it was produced, and orienting the farmers on the process will be very helpful for them to understand that it's like any other inorganic fertilizer that can be bought from the market today.
Yeah, because I think social acceptability has really a big role to play in this, in our project. So, how are we progressing right now in terms of fertilizer production? Can you at least explain what we are doing right now at the site?
So currently at the site, we have already a dedicated laboratory for lab scale trials and have identified and assigned the greenhouse and experimental field for the testing of the fertilizers. All initial materials have already been procured, and we already have the mixing tank where the fertilizer production will take place. So we already also have it with our team. Engineer Albert Longos from the LSU has already joined our team at Salicneta Farm. And he is the one who is guiding us through the production process. We have done initial analysis of the septage from some of the tanks at the farm, but we have submitted it also to a third party to have a better analysis of the contents of the septage. So we also have weekly meetings with our with the LSU and with Dr. Devendra. So this keeps us updated on the developments from each side, and at the same time serves also as a time as consultation time as a consultation time for to check out what we have been doing, and also to consult methodologies that we are being that is being implemented in the field. So right now we are reviewing and cross-checking the formula and the process flow as we prepare for the production. But the pandemic, sadly, some has caused delays in the procurement. But as I've mentioned earlier, all is set.
I think we are experiencing some difficulty here. Yeah. Um, okay, so she was talking about, okay, Miss Apple, maybe you can continue what you were saying. It's sort of hanged
Sorry. From what part did I
from the
did
from
I
the
stop, ma'am?
delays caused by the pandemic.
Yeah. So there were delays in caused by the pandemic, especially on the procurement that has affected our timeline. But see, all is set right now, and so it's work, work, work for us now. That's all.
Yeah. Actually, maybe at this point, we would just like to. I think there is a. I'm seeing something in our chat box, and maybe you would like to explain this before we proceed further. How different is the fertilizer that we will be producing from biosolids?
From biosolids.
Yes.
Basically, it has undergone chemical.
Oops.
So maybe we can answer that
Yeah.
question. Yeah,
Yes, Dr. Mike.
just in
Yeah.
case.
Yes,
So
yes.
Go
Of
ahead.
course, Devendra could add more, but biosolids that we know at this time, this is actually the typical pathway is basically producing compost, right? And
Yeah.
there are some issues, for example, the heavy metal content, and of course, the amount of the nutrients in compost cannot be controlled. And of course, in our case, what we are producing is, in fact, you could say it's a chemical product. It's tervite. It's a mono. Oh, okay. Yeah. It's a slow release fertilizer, wherein hopefully through the optimized process we can reduce the content of heavy metals or unwanted contaminants that can be, of course, applied to the crops. So I think maybe the vendor could add more on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, the product that we are looking at is derived from human excreta, and but it is a product with known chemical composition. So it is known in terms of its chemical structures, its potential benefits when it's applied to soil. So in terms of quantities required, maybe slightly different because every fertilizer has very different nitrogen NPK, basically nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So in this case, it will be slightly different, but we are still providing the nutrients, and slight adjustment in quantity may be required. But the end result will be same as any slow release fertilizer which farmers can buy in the open market.
So where will we be sourcing the domestic sewage that we will be processing? Maybe we can give some description or information about that. At least
Yeah,
All
for this pilot stage, yes.
Apple can explain this. I think, yeah.
Yeah. All this will be sourced out from the tanks, septic tanks from the farm, from Salikneta farm.
From Salikneta Farm. So around how many households will
Yes, ma'am.
be getting that from?
So currently, there are around 100 people living in more or less 100 people living inside the community.
100. Okay, so that would be about maybe 35 households. Okay, so
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
so we were talking about how the pandemic actually affected our project. So any other input from maybe from Dr. Devendra? Did it have any effect on your end?
Yes, I think everybody is affected in some or other ways. We also got affected. For example, we wanted to do some lab work before the work could actually start in the Philippines at Salikneta Farm, which of course could not be done on time as we planned, but we still managed to do all the calculations, designs on time, and we basically managed through the stages. I think we are now in much better position because more work is to be done on site, which Apple is of course looking after with support from the LSU and with my support as much as possible online. So I think we are pretty much back on track, and hopefully we will catch up very soon.
Oh, that's good. So, Miss Apple, can you give us an outlook as to what are the other steps that we are looking at in the coming months?
We
I-
start the production. We start the production start next week, and then after production, we test it now with selected crops in the field. So we have selected two crops, two annual crops, and two types of leafy vegetables. So it will be like a 3 month period to test it, to test the fertilizer uh, to the crops being planted in the greenhouse and also in the field.
Okay, so that means that on your end, you are going to start testing the fertilizer sometime, what month?
Sometime in March, ma'am. We start the
Sometime in March.
application in March. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when do you think can we ask our farmers from our end start uh, using the fertilizer? We will be waiting for your result, or be doing it simultaneously?
uh, I think for the meantime, what we are trying to do now at Salikneta Farm is to, with what the team of Sir Mike, in terms of the process of the production. So we are trying to actualize it now with actual materials from the farm, and probably try to tweak it in such a way that the process on what on the outcome of the process that we're trying to do at the Selecneta farm could also be adaptable in the farms. So in terms of production, probably I guess, ma'am, it's after the project, after we test it in our field. Not, I guess it's not too soon.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. So I was just thinking, because we're looking at a timeline, and we also have to let our farmers. We will be doing the community engagement, testing the fertilizer with our farmers actually. So I was just thinking, when do you think we can start doing that?
So from my point of view,
Yes.
we're also testing it with leafy vegetables. So leafy vegetables is
Mhm.
it's a short duration crop. So we could easily test it there, and then initial results of the test using these leafy vegetables could be initially shared with the farmer. So your team is working closely with us in terms of documentation. So I guess through documentation, these materials could be shared with your farmers as to how we have successfully, or how the test have how we have tested the results of the test on the vegetable on these leafy vegetables uh, can be shown to them.
Yeah, actually, about 2 weeks ago, we were talking to Dr. Devendra, because we were asking what type of crops would this type of fertilizer be best used on. And Dr. Devendra was saying that it's better to test first with vegetables. Isn't that right? So, yeah, so we actually have a set of farmers already ready to accept the challenge of testing the fertilizer. So we are doing a lot of communicate. We will be doing a lot of communication with them, so that they can be educated as to how this fertilizer should be used. But of course, we really have to inform them, or educate them as to how and how. I mean, how to use it so it will be very effective. At this point, I'm seeing another comment here from Frankie Arellano of Maynilad. Um, he is asking about biosafety of the fertilizer. Do you have any comment on that? Will you be
My
testing that also,
Yeah,
Mike?
actually, we that's part of the quality control of the product before we do the field scale application. So we're doing first
Yeah.
heavy metal analysis, of course, even the microbiological content will be very important.
Yeah.
So I can add to that, Amy,
Yes, sure.
about the biosafety, because before we came to this full scale application, we have done different scales in the UK, also full scale, not using septic sludge, but using the large wastewater treatment plant sludge. And biosafety is not a problem, never a problem,
Mm-hmm.
because the process goes through rigorous variation of pH condition, which ensures that you will not have any bacteria and viruses alive in after the process. So we expect that once we analyze the biological quality of the material of the fertilizer, we will get the same results as in labs and other field trials.
Okay, so that's good to know. Um, so at this point, let me just ask all three of you, why do you think it's important to pursue or support projects like Next Cities? Let's start with Dr. Devendra.
Okay, so yes, I'm far away from the site, but I think it is still very important to pursue this project. Is because this is the way that we can demonstrate that human excreta in any form, like septic sludge, is not necessarily a waste as such, not necessarily a burden, if we can recover useful products from it. And therefore it is not a material that needs to be thrown away into the environment just because of lack of funding, or because we see this as a problematic around us. So if we develop systematic approaches in the business system, we can see that there is enough potential for businesses to collect this and recover good resource and provide to end users, which are basically farming communities.
Okay, so thank you for that. What is your view on this, Mike?
So, in 3 words, para sa bayan.
Okay,
But if you have time to elaborate it, then is
we
it
have
do I?
time.
Okay.
We
So
have time.
first,
Yeah.
I how do I look at this project? Next, these projects for me is somehow an experiment for me on how to approach research. And in this case, normally we have this typical notion of R&D, research and development. And
Yes.
sometimes researchers work in silo. Here and there, you generate knowledge, but you cannot connect the impact to for example, to the potential end user, like farmers. This is sometimes what we are missing. And hopefully, this kind of program, we are able to have what you call a R2D, not R&D, research to development. And I think this should be, I think, what we should pursue as a researcher when we look at this kind of projects. So that's the first point that I would like to emphasize. The second point is we are looking at the problem at different scales, both at the macro and the micro scale. So when we did the study, we did first a life cycle analysis to understand really on the potential impact of recovering nutrients
Mhm.
from domestic wastewater. Of course, we can have no idea of the order of magnitude of the impact, but now we did some lab scale study, and now we are trying to scale this up, hopefully achieving the same desired product. So in this case, this will also be very important that we pursue this journey uh, of doing research, because research is not just a 1 year research wherein you generate new knowledge and publish paper. You have to connect this until you can find what you call a real innovation or impact. And the last one, of course, is that's why now we are engaging SCPW and other partners, because we believe that an impactful research should require participation from other sectors. So it's participatory in nature, and I think this is a way to maximize the impact or benefit from this kind of project. So yeah, para sa
Oh,
bayan.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Actually, we are also very grateful that we are part of this program, and we feel that the role of communication, education, participation, and awareness in connecting research, development, and really benefiting the farmers in this case is very important. So, Miss Apple, would you like to add to what has been said already?
So I guess from this project, we hope that we can model a very promising way of recycling the septage. So and have a big impact probably on recycling wastewater, and especially maximizing resources, and promote and develop a sustainable production system that can be adapted in other farms.
Okay, so thank you for that. Um, I was thinking that maybe as researchers, do you have at this point, what are the ways forward for the next cities project?
Uh, who would like to answer that question? Any order?
Any order?
Okay, so let me share you my vision for this one. Okay, so as mentioned by Devendra, Next Cities is a program. So it's a when you say a program, it consists of several projects. So the project cycle is not just 1 year, 2 years. It's actually
Why?
uh, it we are trying to sustain having this vision of course of what you call the next city's vision on trying to protect the environment, engaging stakeholders in such a way we can recover nutrients and somehow protect the water bodies, and of course trying to reduce the energy consumption in the process. So these are the things that we try to explore. Of course, now we are looking at the mutant recovery from the domestic wastewater. So the way I see it is, of course, we are looking only at a single pathway. This is in the form of Sturvite. Okay, but we are looking at several other pathways in the future once it become how to say viable, because there are other how to say technologies that we can integrate with this, and hopefully we can come up with how to say a financially viable system wherein we can use this as a how to say uh, a business model wherein we can invite social entrepreneurs. Hopefully that would of course help us well our farmers. So that's how I envision it. Of course, I don't want to elaborate the technical stuff because it might bore you, but maybe in the future we can discuss this further.
Well, I think
Yes.
some of our audience would be very interested in the technical aspect. I'm seeing a lot of technical people in our audience. Okay, but we would like to hear from Dr. Devendra first. Okay.
So yeah, I can give you some more ideas what could happen after this stage. So next couple of months, as Apple has explained, we are basically going to look into the testing of and continuous production, and perhaps sharing the fertilizer produced with others. And obviously, it's very difficult to set exact date which date that we can share. But a lot of things will happen during next couple of months. Now, this will provide us very strong evidence for actually what is the exact cost of production, because this is the first time we have done in the Philippines at a certain scale. And it's being funded by Newton Prize, but we want to know if it goes independently, what will be the cost of production, real cost of production, and what is the benefit. So as Mike just explained about the viability, we need to set those numbers to assess the viability. So at this moment, we're seeing the cost in terms of processing the septage and producing the fertilizer. That's the main cost. Um, Benefits: we are saving money that is used for handling the septage. If you have to just call a vendor and then throw it away, so that is a cost that you save fully or partly. and then the price of fertilizer that you're substituting. So that is, so we have to balance those. So we need to establish that number very soon, in coming months. And then once we have that, the next technical challenge would be to explore the different type of valuable applications. So the same fertilizer can have a different value if you produce certain crops, but if you produce very highly, valuable crops and products, then it may give you very different returns, basically. So we would like also to do in next phases, not just producing vegetables from it, but also some novel farm. So one novel farming could be, for example, growing a microalgae through this one. So these are some of the ideas we are looking into, that we want to show that this recovered fertilizer can even serve as a very high value product, or can serve as input to producing very high value products. So we want to prove that in some cases it can even be better or more priced than conventional chemical fertilizers, because of its slow release nature and its composition. And also we are expecting not only the nitrogen and phosphorus, but also some potentially other beneficial trace minerals that might be present in it. So these are matter of researches that we will be focusing during times to come. And even after Newton Prize project, after July, we are hoping that we will be exploring different avenues of applying this novel fertilizer.
Okay, so I was wondering if Miss Apple would also like to add to the discussion on that, as to the ways forward for the Newton Prize project.
Sir Mike and Devendra has covered even what we look forward even for from our part. So none anymore, ma'am.
Okay, so as scientists, experts, we really call you scientists and experts out there. What will be your advice to young scientists who would want to pursue um, projects or your researches along this line? Dr. Mike, would you like to start with that?
So advice to the young researchers, scientists,
Young,
or
yeah,
body scientists.
young
Yeah. So
researchers who might be interested in doing work along those lines.
so uh, so don't be easy to remember. My advice is four words again: think big, start small. So uh, we, we as researchers should look at the global issues, the problems, and hopefully uh, we can start small by looking at our problems in our community, in our area, in our region. So in that case, it will how they say give you some big picture, at the same time relevance on how you become more effective as a researcher. Of course, I tell you, it's not a how they say a linear process wherein you have this uh, objective of achieving this, and hopefully you can get from point A to point B in a straight line. It's a messy process. In fact, it requires iteration. It requires a lot of how to say patience and perseverance. So I would advise you to have a lot of that patience and perseverance, because it's quite challenging to do research here in the Philippines. But if you're passionate enough, then para sa bayan, we can do this one. That's it.
So would you have thank you, Dr. Mike. So what will be your advice to young scientists, Dr. Devendra?
Yes, I would advise young researchers, young scientists, to have a vision of their own, and most importantly, what I have felt, and while interacting with young researchers, very often you think that you are studying certain subject, and you feel that you are buried into that subject, and you don't see how you can use your fundamental knowledge into solving real problems. So I can assure you that we have many researchers who come from even pure sciences background. They are not engineers, and but their knowledge is equally useful, and equally applicable. So, for example, in our project, we are not just doing engineering. We are doing a lot. We are using a lot of chemical sciences. We are using a lot of fundamental sciences to basically understand the whole process. So if someone is studying chemistry, they are as valuable as someone is studying chemical engineering or manufacturing, for example. So do not be discouraged by if you're studying fundamental subjects at universities. When you are studying at colleges, when you are studying, you'll always feel that you are studying theory, and you have to, because there is no other way around. You got to go through that theory, that fundamental understanding. But that is not useless knowledge. That is very useful. That is backbone of doing anything further. So always think in a positive way that even theoretical and fundamental subject knowledge that you are getting is absolutely important, and think of where you can apply it, and do not hesitate to jump into it and experiment with it. So if you feel that a particular professor, particular company is running a project, looking into problem, which is very high tech and everything, and I know basic mathematics, basic chemistry, do not worry about it. Just get in touch with them, try to challenge yourself, and you will be surprised that your basic knowledge is so valuable to many complex and big projects. So that's my advice.
Wow, that's very encouraging. I wish I met you when I was young and energetic and would like to do research. Would you like to add to that, Miss Apple?
Yes,
What will
I
be your
think it's very
advice?
important.
Uh-huh.
I think it's very important that you know where your strengths are, and then from the
Mhm.
side where you're not very strong, this is the time to collaborate. So this is, I think, what we are trying to show now with this project is the importance of collaboration, uh, so that we could reach the goal.
Yeah. Okay. I was also wondering what other research areas um, would you recommend for the young scientists that they can go into? Something that is aligned to what we are doing right now in next cities.
Mhm.
Some research areas that they can go into. Any of you three can take that question.
Mike, you can start
Um,
perhaps from Philippines point of view.
Research area, for example, of course, for me, the chemistry, on how we can really develop this smart uh, fertilizer, because slow release fertilizer is, in fact, we can say it's a smart fertilizer, because it is controlled release of these nutrients to the plants, no? And in this case, we have to understand, for example, technologies that could develop this one. Maybe it's a hybrid of biotechnology and nanotechnology, if you would like to go high tech. Okay. Of course, what we are doing now is, in fact, low tech, in a sense that a simple chemical process can develop this kind of product. And in this case, what we need to understand now is maybe the soil science part when we try to develop this kind of
Soil
smart
science.
fertilizer. So yeah, there are several areas that we can look at. And of course, engineers also will be very useful when we try to scale up this process.
Yeah, that will be very helpful, especially for those who are looking for research topics for their masters and for their PhD and even just for their bachelor degree. Yeah, Dr. Devendra, would you like to share your view on that?
Yeah. So I think it becomes very overwhelming for many students when they look for the direction, because
Yes,
normally when you are doing undergraduate and masters, or even after that when you are working, you are doing many things little bit. It's not that streamlined and focused. And now when you want to go to research, you got to choose one of the many things, and it becomes very challenging which one to go, because you feel like your career depends on it, your life, your employability, and everything depends on what you go for it. So in that context, and in the context of what we are discussing the topic, what I would say that irrespective of what your fundamental degree is, you can be engineer, you can be a chemical sciences, physical sciences person, or social sciences person, economics, sociology, or even management. Think of a sector that is more important. So if you're looking into, for example, climate change adaptation sector, whether you study sociology, whether you study engineering, if you are actually addressing the issue of climate change adaptation, it's very likely you will get more satisfaction and potentially employment in future, because that's where a lot many industries are pushed to focus on. Not only industries but also governments, NGOs. So when there is a common consensus that whole world is going to work in that particular discipline, then basically it will require all the workforce. It will require research in social sciences, research in engineering, research in biology, chemistry, marine, freshwater. So if you choose the discipline, and then look into what topic fits with your particular subject expertise. So in climate change adaptation, for example, someone can study the social impact. So if, for example, there is our project which relates to sustainable development goals and adaptation to climate change in some ways, people with social sciences background can study its social impact in 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, can conduct interviews and research with public and stakeholders. While engineers can work on basically improving the technology, designing the technology for replication at different places. Basic scientists can study the material behaviors. What are the potential of pollution caused by different metals, different components, and so on. So it's very important that you select the theme first, which is growing, which is required for the society and industry and government, and then utilize your strength. And go for it, basically. So if you have certain strength, don't give up. Don't think that subject you choose is wrong. None of the subjects are wrong. If you like the subject, you did the right thing to study that. Now put into perspective and go for a research area in which you see the growth and development and potential, and that's what my advice will be.
Wow, that's really very encouraging. Yeah. Miss Apple, would you like to add to that also?
Like for example, for the setup that we have from our
Mhm.
side, usually what we go into now and is maximization of the available resources. So we all know that a lot of in terms of production systems in the farm, resources really what limits productivity in the farm. So as we move towards this project, so this project has already helped us in one aspect, and for our students, it's more on we what you call we open up them to uh, what we have in this in the condition in the farm, and then try to work on it, and have think about what the problem is, and look on what they could do to have to answer or to give a solution to the problem that we see. So I think for now, for us, it's what we're really working right now is on resource management.
Okay, so that's a very comprehensive discussion we've had so far. And so far, just for our last question, where do you think we can, researchers can get support for these types of projects?
Mike is the expert. You go ahead, Mike, first.
Yes.
Yeah, just so the people who are watching us can have an idea where they can get support.
You are muted, Mike.
Okay.
Very good idea, research idea, as mentioned by Devendra. No? Then I think it's not difficult to get some funding. First, you can get funding from your own university, maybe like a seed grant. That's how I do it. Just to check whether there is uh, viability for the proof of concept. Then,
Mhm.
if you have this kind of confidence already, maybe you can get some external fund, for example, from the government. So in the Philippines, we have support from DOST, Department of Science Technology. So they provide this kind of research grant for researchers so that you can pursue an idea that will be impactful in the future. So that's one. The second one, you can explore, for example, if you really have this crazy but really very impactful idea, building the foundations, international foundations, like the Gates Foundation. Maybe you can get some funding from that, or from USAID, or from Newton Fund. So these are the things that you can explore as well. Now, if you can see a potential business model out of your project, then possibly you can find funding from private sectors. So these are companies that might be interested to your potential product or technology to be developed. That's
Okay,
how.
so that's, yeah, very helpful tips from Dr. Mike. Dr. Devendra, would you like to also mention some of the opportunities for support for these types of research?
Yeah, I think what I can suggest is looking into two different ways. Uh, Financial support, or in general, or opportunities in general, you can split them in two ways. One is the career development, because people as an individual, they need to develop their profession competence and career, and that itself requires financial support. So let's say if someone wants to do a PhD, or do MBA, or go to other countries to learn something. So that's one way of progressing into career through and gaining more expertise before you jump into as independent researcher. So in that context, I think people should look not only just in their own country. So if you're Filipino, not just in Philippines, just open to all the countries, and not just United States of America. And I'm not very often you are very much geared by what you see in the media, where your friends live, and so you ignore the rest of the world. But you will be surprised if you talk to research communities, to communities who went out of their country to learn and explore new things. They might go to a country which you might have never heard of. So I give an example. Who knows Finland? To do a PhD or become a researcher in Finland. People think Finland, where it is in somewhere North Pole, but if you get your right skills and right skill training and opportunities in Finland, then go to Finland. So you don't have to go to America like everybody goes, or to UK, where many people go. uh, and then if you feel like, okay, I Google in English and I get response in English, then obviously you go to UK, Australia, Canada, USA. But there are best researchers, one of the best researchers who don't write in English. They write in German, for example. Okay, so you have to be open to that. It does not mean that if you go to Germany, you only have to talk and think in German. Okay, I did my PhD in Italy. I did learn Italian for my benefit, I like to speak different languages, but I was doing English research, basically everything in English. So if you open up yourself, thinking world as a really big place, and be patient, that you may write 100 emails and get only one reply. If you have that patience and perseverance, then basically you may find very, very different unexplored pathways. So you have to take a really original own approach, not just taking advice from your old friend. And internet is important thing these days. Imagine 30, 40 years ago, people went to do the same thing by writing a letter by pen and paper, and it used to take a couple of weeks before professor reaches and opens and then replies if you're lucky. And nowadays you have chance to actually reach out people, so you can think of exploring your training and development in a global sense. That's one thing. But if you think you are fully equipped with education, and you basically are ready to embark on basically doing things. You only need financial support and you are happy where you are. For example, as a self-employed person, or employee of university or NGO or a company, uh, and you only need financial support, then obviously it's a different way. You are basically, then you have to work on developing a very good proposal, very strong proposal which stands out, which is not in the crowd. So you need different skills. In that case, you need collaboration. You need to learn and get out of the box that people have been sitting and thinking in, because it's not easy. Whether you apply for Gates Foundation, USAID, or Newton Fund, or local the CSR, corporate social responsibility fund within your country or outside country. It's very competitive. There are many people applying for the same. So you got to prepare yourself in writing best research proposals, best exclusion proposals. So proposal writing is what you have to practice first before jumping into asking for money, in simple and plain words. So you have to really master convincing style. And to master that, you need to have good idea as well. If you have empty ideas, you cannot just write a good proposal. So that's why I split my recommendation in two parts: career development and actually seeking finance if you're already established. I hope it helps, at least to some people.
Yeah, of course. I think a lot of us learned a lot today. That was a very good discussion, I think. And we are very thankful. We would like to thank our partners who are also our guests in this maiden broadcast of the Wetland News, Wetland Views. And for our viewers, this is how you can support such initiatives. Follow us on our FB page and also our YouTube channel. And better yet, you can join the SCPW. We are open for a membership. We're doing the membership drive now. You may check out on how to apply for membership or join as volunteers by visiting us at our website at www.wetlands.ph. So on that note, we would like to thank Dr. Devendra, Dr. Mike, and Miss Apple for a very enriching and enjoyable afternoon. I actually enjoyed listening to all three of you and also reading the chat box here with all their comments. We told them that they can send their comments by, we will be replying to them by email if there are questions. And of course, we will have a next edition sometime, I think in July, we will have an update on how the project is doing. In the meantime, we would like to say thank you and goodbye for now. Thank you so much. We learned a lot
Bye-bye.
today. So, Dr.
Bye-bye.
Devendra, you
Bye.
can,
Thank you.
yeah, have a nice
Thank you.
Saturday.
Thank you.
Okay.
Same to all of
Thank
you.
you so
Enjoy the
much.
weekend.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah. And for the final segment of our show, which is the Wetland Views, we will be playing a video of the new Ramsar site, our 8th Ramsar site or wetland of international importance in the country, which was listed just this February 2 on the occasion of World Wetlands Day 2021, the Sasmuan Pampanga Coastal Wetlands. But before we play that, we have a video here that will wrap up the discussion. I'm sorry, I sort of missed that. We will first have a video of the next cities, which will wrap up the discussion for the first part. And then it will be followed by the video of the Sasmuan Pampanga coastal wetland.
I'm Mike Promintilia from the Department of Chemical Engineering. I'm a professor here at De La Salle University. The wastewater that are generated from the households are actually being discharged to the water bodies that contain these nutrients. These nutrients pollute the water bodies, and we found out that there is a potential for recovering these phosphate-based resources and convert it to fertilizer. While looking at the potential of mutant recovery, hopefully we can develop a business model wherein the water utilities could provide services to increase the sanitation coverage here in our city. At the same time, look for other revenues in terms of recovering the phosphates. And hopefully, this will also help the farmers because we could lower down the price of this fertilizer. The special about Newton is definitely you have a chance to work with high level type of research from UK universities. Having this kind of project, having this kind of funding that's being provided by Newton Fund would help me, and as well would help other researchers to really dream big. Of course, we should start small and then act locally and hopefully make an impact and make a difference in this world.
Every year, millions upon millions of migratory birds make an incredible journey, flying thousands of kilometers across oceans to escape the cold weather, seeking food and refuge in the warmer tropics. As part of the East Asian Australasian Flyway, the Philippines is annually visited by these tourist birds, and based on a study by Jensen in 2018, a coastal municipality in Pampanga receives 46.4% of the total water birds frequenting the country. A treasure trove of biodiversity, the Sasmuan Pampanga Coastal Wetlands, SPCW, situated in the municipality of Sasmuan, Pampanga, is recognized as an important refueling station for migratory birds while also catering to resident ones. The January 21 Asian Waterbird Census in Pampanga recorded a total of 80,743 migratory birds composed of 63 species. Records show that the site hosts 6 threatened species of birds, namely the spotted green shank, black-faced spoonbill, Chinese egret, Philippine duck, Far Eastern curlew, and the Asian dowitcher. This site extends over an area of 3,667 and 31 hectares of coastal waters interconnected with mangroves, mudflats, and river ecosystems that offer a range of ecosystem services at local and regional levels. At the heart of SPCW lies a mangrove islet dubbed as the Pampanga's Hidden Gem, the Sasmuan Bangkong Malapad Critical Habitat and Ecotourism Area. Bangkong Malapad is nestled on the Pasak River, which is one of the connecting rivers from upstream regions of Manila Bay, making it immensely crucial to its rehabilitation. It also serves as a home to a variety of species of mangroves and marine animals, which in turn provide a source of food and livelihood to nearby communities that are purely dependent on fishery resources. It is our country's pride to have the Sasmuan Pampanga Coastal Wetlands designated as its newest Ramsar site, giving the Philippines a total of 8 Ramsar sites.